knowledge is derivable from sense perception, he's establishing a fact which is indubitable, right? Someone can believe that I think therefore I am is going to be an apodictically certain truth, but not believe that it follows from this that sense perception is going to be a credible source of knowledge. So that's not
But
an
do you not
indicator of
think,
foundationalism.
do you not think that I think therefore I am Descartes' idea is not propagated on other
It's
metaphysical
not even
principles?
it's not even an empirical claim. What are you talking about? It's an a priori claim.
I think therefore I am presupposes things like existence and distinction. Like I think
But it
it's
doesn't
metaphysical.
presuppose something like sense datum theories. It doesn't require sense data or empirical data points. You can have a possible world where someone is thinking, but there's no sense experiences. Take into consideration Ibn Sina's thought experiment, with the floated man thought experiment. When Ibn Sina was in a prison in Persia at the time, he creates this thought experiment where they can have like a floating man, for example, which has self-awareness or consciousness, but is completely incapable of sensory experiences.
Do you not think that consciousness in itself is sensory?
Nope. No. Consciousness does not entail sensory experiences.
Well, Kant would argue the opposite, and I would agree with Kant.
Yeah, and Kant is wrong on multiple things, like his deontological ethics is false, his argument from conscience regarding God's existence in his book In Morality is false and is just a bad argument, and transcendental idealism is false given certain objections like moral objection. So Kant is pretty much plenty of false ideologies.
I would think that his transcendental ideologies are true. I agree with Kant's metaphysics.
Yeah, you think transcendental idealism is true?
Mostly. Yeah.
Okay, so do you believe in Kant's view regarding how they're like necessary conceptual schemes which like basically grounds our knowledge of the phenomenal world?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's just false, right? So like if we run down like the 12 transcendental categories, right, which is just an extension of Aristotelian 10 categories, to say that these are necessary, hold on there a second. To say that these things are necessary, there are going to be some issues with even knowing or determining the necessity of these conceptual schemes. Like, how do you know that some of these categories will come out of the existence of one's mental framework in the future? How do you know it is necessarily existent within one's mental landscape?
Yeah, I think you're making a category issue. So these transcendentals are not sense perception based, but they're actually necessary for sense perception to exist.
I never said that they are sense perception based insofar as the categories are the sense perceptual content. I never made that claim. I'm saying that these categories are posited to be necessary for sense experiences, right? And necessary mental constructs holistically. Now, the question that one could make in response to this is how exactly would Kant or any neo-Kantian would be able to atomically ground that these things are in fact logically necessary or necessary under some other given modal metaphysics for there to be experiences.
Yeah, so I think you kind of missed what I was saying, and I'll make it more clear. What I'm saying is I think these things, these transcendental categories, are in themselves prior to all other belief. And to support that presupposition, I would just say it is impossible to the contrary to have belief without transcendental categories prior.
For a second. What's the logical contradiction in having beliefs or sensory beliefs, to be more specific, in the absence of some of these transcendental categories?
Because when you have sense perception, it necessitates certain transcendental categories, such as distinction, such as self. All these things are metaphysical and transcendental. Existence, identity, self, distinction. These are all transcendental categories.
To make the claim, sorry, I was cut out. To make the claim that necessitates these categories is to presuppose that there's some contradiction entailed from denying these categories and still upholding some sensory content being intelligible, right? Which I'm asking you once again, what is the logical contradiction in denying some of these categories, these transcendental schemes, okay? And still having intelligible sensory content. And your response is simply, wait, hold on real quickly. When I asked you for the logical contradiction, you never gave a logical contradiction. Your response is verbatim. You think this is true in virtue of it necessitating these sensory experiences, which is not given the logical contradiction. The logical contradiction is a P and not P. What's the contradiction in me denying some of these categories and still believing in the possibility of sense experiences.
Yeah, I did give a P and not P. I said that sense perception is impossible without transcendental category X, and to deny transcendental category X would be deny sense perception. So if one,
I'm questioning the first proposition that sense experiences is impossible without this experience or the transcendental categories X. So
okay,
that would be P and not P.
Because sense perception in itself has to have identity, has to have distinction, has to have existence, all of these things.
Has to have distinctions?
Yeah.
Why do you think it has to have all the 12 transcendental categories?
I'm saying transcendental categories as a whole are necessary.
Each individual transcendental category is posited by Kant to be necessary for sense experiences. I'm asking why is it the case that all of them are necessary for sense experiences?
I think we can
compromise, just to be clear on this, we can compromise that some of these are going to be necessary because sense experiences is just an object recognition faculty that we as human beings possess, but not conquer with the idea that all of these are necessary. The argument that all 12 transcendental categories are not necessary for the object recognition faculties that we consider to be sense experiences.
Yeah, so we probably could compromise on that because most neo-Kantians don't hold the view that all 12 are, but instead we see the transcendental categories as more of a, in themselves, one thing. So when we talk about like transcendental arguments, we don't plug in 12 transcendental categories, but instead all things that are necessary and prior to logic and reasoning.
Yeah, so like those are neo-Kantians, and that's why they're called neo-Kantians for a reason. Because like neo-Kantians, just like for example Neoplatonists, their works and their interpretations of Kant is going to be a bit distinct from the original literature or the original philosopher that they follow. Am I bugging by the way or no?
No, I heard you. Yeah, then we could probably agree on that because
like a neo-Kantian or like a Kantian in the rigorous sense insofar as you believe that every single
that's why I said
category individually are necessary.
That's what at the beginning when I said, yeah, I pretty much believe in Kant. That's pretty much what I meant.
Okay. But you understand the idea, though, right? Kant is not saying that. He's not saying that consciousness requires these categories. He's saying that sense experiences do, and there's no philosopher which is actually intelligent would say that there's some biconditional relation between consciousness, or more specifically self-consciousness or self-awareness, and sense experiences insofar as they both require each other. They're like logically dependent on each other. Like it's pretty obvious that there's no logical contradiction entailed from a being possessing consciousness in a world which is completely deprived of sensor content. And in that specific case scenario, it would establish the possibility of sense experiences, or more specifically, consciousness existing independently of sense experiences.
But you would see the fact that sense perception is impossible without consciousness. We agree on that part, right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so yes, I agree that. I think sense perception is an aspect of consciousness. But to say that I think the 4am is something which is pointed towards some empirical notion, I think that's just a mischaracterization of Descartes' first meditations literature.
Yeah, so when we were arguing before, I was arguing with Archie, or we were discussing, we weren't really arguing. We kind of came to a conclusion. My critique of Descartes is that Descartes, in his sense perception, he has to have some form of consciousness, and I think consciousness itself is dependent on certain transcendental categories. So that's why I brought up Kant.
But it seems as if you're making an equivocation between consciousness and sense experiences, which I've already clarified the distinction, right?
No, I'm not making an equivocation. I'm saying sense perception necessitates a priori some form of consciousness.
Yeah, consciousness is going to be about something. Consciousness is a mental representation. Mental representation is about something. So you could say identity is obviously going to be something which is a necessary aspect of consciousness. In fact, identity is a necessary aspect of any concepts that we think about, whether these concepts are something which are instantiated or not instantiated. But the point of the matter is simply that the claim that Descartes is making, again, It's something which is true a priori. So like it's not something which is true based off a posteriori facts. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So then we don't really have a disagreement. We should just. I think we come to the same conclusion that consciousness is itself necessitates certain transcendental categories, and we came to the same conclusion that sense perception necessitates consciousness.
But what I don't think we agree on is whether Descartes is trying to establish foundationalism. Because, for one, what type of foundationalism are we talking about? Like, is this like some internalist, modest foundationalist view, or some externalist foundationalist view? Like, what type of foundationalism view are you talking about?
Yeah, so usually Descartes is called the grandfather of all foundationalists because of the fact that his proclamation, I think, therefore I am, is the basic argument for foundationalists moving forward when it comes to epistemology and metaphysics. That's just the history of the philosophy.
So, I mean, I think the commitment, the epistemic commitment that foundationalists ought to actually adopt is the belief that knowledge exists, or rather, there are things which are known outside of the dogmas which are grounded by the dogmas. I'm not sure if Descartes believes that he knows anything independently of the cogito ergo sum proposition. Because even in this book, wait, hold on, just to be clear, like when you read the first meditations book, for example, in the introduction stage, they talk about the distinction between Descartes' account of knowledge and the scientific account of knowledge. So scientists, for example, their account of knowledge is going to be something which is probabilistic. It's going to be based off the IBE, the inference of the best explanation, which is going to be based on certain underlying explanatory values, or this goes into abductive reasoning. And if it is not abductive reasoning, then they're going to be using something which is Bayesian. They use a Bayesian epistemology. So they adopt this probabilism notion of knowledge, but Descartes does not. This was established in the introduction part of the book. If you read it, I haven't read the book in a while, but I know for a fact that's in the introduction stages. So like I'm not sure if Descartes' account of knowledge would allow for anything to be known outside of the statement cogito ergo sum. I think therefore, yeah. I'm not sure about that. I don't think that is something which is warranted at all.
Yeah, I have a response to that, but it's getting kind of late. But this was an interesting conversation. I'm gonna send you a friend request.
By the way, are you momkeyking or someone else?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, okay, cause I knew it couldn't be the other Judah. Holy crap! Cause I was like, god damn. But yeah, you made some. Yeah, so I think that was like a pretty controversial statement. I think that was an incorrect statement you made, but we can talk about this some other time. You can friend me.
Do you know Jay Dyer?
Jay Dyer, yeah, I think he's horrible.
Oh, really? I'm a fan of him, but he has a pretty good debate. I guess
Jay Dyer got like destroyed by Jake the Muslim metaphysician, and his argument for God is pretty horrible. Yeah, I have the recording of it.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've watched the video. Wow. I thought Jay won it.
Yeah, I don't think he's like. I'd like to ask you like your view on like the Liar's paradox and like Grimm's omniscience paradox and something, but you can say you got to go like right now. So.
It's getting kind of late. I should probably get this late. Okay, God bless you, bro. I know you're Muslim, but I still say God bless you.
Peace.